I'm going to change the background here. What's going on, everybody? It is the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Good to see all of you once again. We have a very fun show today. Chase, it feels like a lot has happened since the last time that we did a show. I mean, a ton of different things going on right now. I mean, we're going to break it all down, but man, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, so much that's gone on in the NFL the past couple weeks, and with the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday at 4 p.m., we're going to see a lot more moves coming up in the next couple days, especially come crunch time. You know, we always have that one last-second big blockbuster trade that happens like right an hour before the deadline ends. So, you know, it's going to be action-packed all the way up until the very end. We're going to have to wait and see who is going to be traded and tune in to that, and then we'll have to make an emergency episode that day, you know, if something like drastic goes down. So we'll have to wait and see who gets traded.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go ahead and quickly dive into week 7's games. Obviously, like we just talked about, you went 6-8 again this week. I went 8-6 again this week. So, you know, we're repeating performances like we did last week. So I have you by 2 games right now. But I mean, was there any games this last week that really surprised you? I mean, I can definitely say right off the top that the Panthers blowing out the Buccaneers. I mean, we're going to talk about the Buccaneers later in the show, but I mean, I think of all the games, like that was and I would say the 2 games that surprised me the most, the Panthers blowing out the Bucs and the Bears blowing out the Patriots in Foxborough as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. At the end of the podcast on the last episode that we did, I'm like, I'm going to go with the Bears. And then I'm like, nah, I'm just kidding. I should have stuck with my pick and went with the Bears.
Yeah, we all agreed there.
It would have been the smart choice to do. And man, Justin Fields was actually playing like a quarterback that shows why he's in the NFL right now.
Crazy to think what happens when they change their offensive scheme around. Crazy all of a sudden that somehow Justin Fields can run for 100 yards and then throw for 200, and you know your team actually has a viable chance to win. Wow, crazy. I know.
And look at what happens when you actually put your quarterback in a position to throw to open receivers.
Yeah, crazy enough. And I'll tell you what, man, I mean, I think you're making me a Giants believer. I think you're turning me into a Giants believer more and more. Now, I know they've beaten some teams recently that have had their fair share of struggles, but they just keep winning, man. I mean, they just keep winning. I just don't know how they keep doing it, but they just keep doing it, and they just keep edging these games out. I mean, Saquon Barkley is in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL at the moment, and it's not even close.
No, it's not.
As much as I like Chubb, I think Chubb is running back 2 right now. But Saquon
Chubb is leading in every statistical category, Derek. Every statistical category that you can think of.
But at the end of the day, it's just not translating to wins. I mean, what you're seeing with Saquon and how they're using him, I think is just elevating the Giants to what we're seeing right now.
You can't call him the best running back in the league when the stats don't back it up.
Stats don't always say you're the best quarterback. How you win games and how you motivate, how you elevate your team is how you determine greatness, as well as
he's carried that team on his back this whole season. It's just the defense.
Saquon Barkley's still number 1 in rushing yards, homie.
No, he's not. Chubb is.
Yes, he is. Yes,
no, he's not. Look it up. Look it up right now. Right now. Look it up.
All right, I'll look it up.
Look it up right now.
Leader in rushing yards. Because last I checked, it was. Okay, Chubb has him by 14 yards.
There you go.
14 yards.
There you go.
Congratulations. Has him on 14 yards. That's so unbelievable.
With less carries. But the thing is, you can sit there and say that, but the reason why it's not translating into wins is because the Giants defense is ranked like 11th or 12th, and the Browns defense is ranked 25th. We're giving up more points than we can keep on the board. Chubb is single-handedly keeping us in the games. If it wasn't for him, we would not even be close. I mean, we've lost, other than the Patriots game, we have lost to opponents by a total of 10 points, a total of 10. One to the Jets, 2 to the Chargers, 3 to the Falcons, and 3 to the Ravens, other than the Patriots games. It's like, you could say he's the best in the league, but, I digress. But anyway, like I was saying, the Giants, it's all because of Brian Daboll, in my opinion, is the reason why they have been successful, and the reason why we're seeing it, because we saw what Brian Daboll was able to do with Josh Allen, and the way that he's been able to make him play, and the way that he's making Daniel Jones play, and they don't even have a top number one weapon other than like wide receiver is what I mean. They don't have a number one wide receiver to look to, and they're still winning games. Just imagine if they had like OBJ, or if they had DJ Moore, or if they had like maybe an Elijah Moore or something that might elevate the play a little bit, but they don't have that, and they're still winning. They edged out wins against the Ravens, wins against the Packers, and those were two teams that we thought were good. And then they edged out another win against the Jags, who that Jags defense, came up clutch. But in the end, if Christian Kirk would have just reached the ball over the goal line, the Jags win at the end of the day, but the Giants stopped them on a 4th and goal situation. And we saw how good their defense is. And I bet you the Ravens are missing Wink Martindale right now, because look at how bad their defense is playing since he's left.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right, well, let's go ahead and hop into some trade news. The most recent one, and that's the biggest one right now, is Robert Quinn being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. That just broke actually this afternoon. Truly insane. I haven't seen any of the trade assets yet that's involved in that.
It was a 4th round pick,
which is crazy, because Robert Quinn, who, just last season had 19 sacks, and then now obviously only one this season, wasn't really working with the Bears so far this season. But I mean, when you look at that trade, Chase, I mean, that's just another thing to me that just says Philadelphia's all in. Like, Philadelphia is buying into the roster and the coaching staff they have right now, and thinks that this is their chance to separate themselves from the pack.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, the fact that they keep making moves like this to build up that defense, they are trying to build a championship defense, and they've got an offense built to win. Another trade that we're going to be talking about here shortly, and I'm just going to bring it up now because this is a team that is interested in him, is Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's been linked to four different teams, and the Eagles are one of them. The Eagles have been trying to look to upgrade at running back. They obviously don't believe that Miles Sanders is that true bell cow number one back. And can you just imagine pairing Kareem Hunt as a number one running back with this Eagles offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, giving Jalen another one, like, weapon to go to, and a guy that's as elusive and as explosive as Kareem Hunt is? That would be insane to go to. An insane weapon. Kareem Hunt is linked to the Bills, the Eagles, the Jets as well, and also to the there was one other team I can't remember. I think it was the Broncos, but yeah, those are the 4 teams that he's linked to. Oh no, it was the Rams. The Rams have been trying to acquire about him as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he actually gets to play on Monday night, or whether or not he'll be traded before then. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. And then another player that got traded, and that really started off the whole trade deadline talks, was about Christian McCaffrey. And then he got traded not to the team we expected, and he got traded to the 49ers. And, the 49ers gave up a 2nd rounder, a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder, and then a 5th rounder next year to add on to it. So they gave up 4 picks for this guy, Chase. Do you think that Christian McCaffrey is the missing ingredient for the 49ers, or do you think he's just another offensive weapon that's just not going to really translate to them winning a championship?
Well, I know one thing. I know that seeing CMC go to the 49ers, that shows me that they're all in as well, because they have no 1st round pick this year. They gave it to the Dolphins to trade up to get Trey Lance. And they've got no second round pick, no third round pick, no fourth round pick. And they got a fifth round pick and beyond, and that's it. So they are all in at this point. And if they don't make it all the way, then they just screwed themselves big time with this. But I think Christian McCaffrey is that missing piece that the Niners have been needing. They've been wanting to run the ball for a while. They've been wanting to, pound it down people's throats, but they didn't really have that guy that scared them in the backfield. Jeff Wilson was doing good, but he wasn't, that guy that truly scares you. And when you look at Christian McCaffrey, he brings everything that you're looking for, elusiveness, like hitting the hole right away, great vision, ability to break tackles, ability to make people miss, ability to catch the ball and run in the open field. He brings it all to the table that you are looking for. And if he can stay healthy, this Niners team is going to be deadly. Not to mention it'll help bail out Jimmy G. Talk about a team that's going all in, and we're talking about the Niners here. And I'm going to throw out something before we move on to the next guy. Before I move on to the next guy, the Minnesota Vikings are 6-1. Let that sink in. 5-1, 6-1, whatever they are. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Nobody has been talking about the Minnesota Vikings and how good they actually are. It's always about the Giants, about the Niners, and about the Eagles, and, sprinkling a little bit of the Cowboys. But the Vikings have gone under the radar and have been quietly sneaking under everybody's noses, and nobody's realizing it and talking about them. And they are secretly playing really, really well right now. So this NFC, who we thought was a weak conference, is now looking very, very interesting. Because not only are they trading players within conference, they are making teams better than what we thought that they were, including the Seahawks. Like, everybody wrote off the Seahawks, including you and I. Everybody thought Geno wasn't going to pan out. And look at them. They're at the top of their division. They're winning the division that they are in over the Niners and Rams, the Super Bowl champions. And it is insane to think about. Nobody expected Geno to outplay Russell by this time this year. If you would have told me last year that Geno was better than Russell at this time, I would have thought that you would have had just got done smoking a big blunt. But no, it's insane, Derek. We are underestimating this NFC conference and these NFC teams, and they are looking a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. And some of these teams, including the Seahawks and the Giants, are doing it without weapons, or without like an offensive line, or without, true defenses, or whatever it may be. Some of them are doing it without the key pieces that they need.
In regards to the Christian McCaffrey trade, when you hear this and you're thinking, man, when McCaffrey is healthy, McCaffrey is a top 5 running back in this league, no question about it. When it comes to his multi-dimensional talent that he provides for a team in a lot of different ways, and especially in a Kyle Shanahan ran offense, I can only imagine that once he gets acquainted to the playbook, I could only imagine what the 49ers could really dial up, right, for Christian McCaffrey. And we talked about it for a long time. Like, they've had wide receivers, they have the tight end, they have the offensive line. They just never really have had a running back to also go into it that has separated them from everything else. So they have elite talent at every level. Obviously, this last week, it didn't translate to a win against the Chiefs. They got blown out again. And, I'm not going to push too much of that towards McCaffrey's fault, because McCaffrey's still learning the playbook. I give him another week or two before I'm willing to say that, we'll see what the best that they can do with him. I think the problem is that Christian McCaffrey does not solve their problems. Actually, I think it's just trying to hide the biggest issue that they have, and that is the quarterback issue is still something they need to get over. Like we said, they gave up their first round assets to go and get Trey Lance. They went and fought for Trey Lance over Justin Fields and Mac Jones and a few other guys that they could have potentially brought in. And so far, Trey Lance didn't play in his first year. And now in his second year, in his second year now, he was in there. You had people questioning his leadership, questioning his playing ability. And now he's hurt again and out for the season. And then you brought Jimmy G in and you're saying, oh, Jimmy G can be the savior. He provides stability. I'm not sure if I'm willing to buy that yet. I see that the 49ers, they've had injury problems throughout this whole season, and I think that's been a problem, and I don't think that they've had a chance to really showcase to everybody what they can do right now.
Eric, can I ask you a question?
What's up?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So what was the thing that led them to their Super Bowl against the Chiefs? Was it their offense or was it their defense?
Well, it was their ability to run the football. And then on top of it, like you said, being able to get pressure on the quarterback was the biggest issue. And they were able to do that in their Super Bowl run when they had potentially 4 all-pros on that defensive line, right? Nick Bosa, Armstead, DeForest Buckner, and I can't even remember. I think it was Solomon Thomas, and then Armstead was the other end. 4 guys that in their primes were all-pro guys. So, I mean, that defensive line is one of the best defensive lines we've seen in recent history. But
going into that game this week, they were the number 1 defense going into this game this last week. I think that McCaffrey fills in that missing piece because you don't have to rely on Jimmy G to, throw 30, 40, 50 times a game. You can pound it down with McCaffrey for a few times a game. And they're bringing back that rushing attack that they had when they had their Super Bowl run.
Can they do that though? I mean, I really don't think, because look, McCaffrey, as great as he is, he's not a pure running back. He is able to run the ball and 15 times a game and is able to explore a lot of things. But I think that the difference was for the 49ers in their Super Bowl run, when they were doing that, they were running the ball down teams' throats. I mean, their offensive line was one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They still got the best offensive lineman in football in Trent Williams, but that doesn't account for everything else in the unit. And when you talk about, I don't trust Christian McCaffrey to hold up with what they're asking him to do from a pure running perspective. They were running the ball against, if you remember in the Packers game, in the NFC game when they were going to the Super Bowl, they ran the ball 40 times against the Packers. They did not stop. They ran for almost 300 yards on the Packers. They made it look easy. I just don't think that they're at that level now. They've obviously got the talent. George Kittle's really good. Debo's really good. Christian McCaffrey's really good. I just wonder, I don't know if they're going to hit us, if they're going to hit their ceiling or not, because I just don't think their philosophy is the same that we saw from 2019. I think it's different now. You're trying to get all this extra talent to help Jimmy Garoppolo instead of asking Jimmy Garoppolo to elevate his play, because you know what his ceiling is now. I mean, we saw Jimmy G didn't have to do a whole lot in that Super Bowl run, because when in doubt, they could run the football better than anyone in the country when it came down to it. And then obviously that defense was elite, which this defense still is when it's healthy. So obviously they hit a rough stretch. They hit a rough stretch where, they had all those injuries. Half their defense was out. They were missing some offensive linemen, and all of their running backs have just disappeared, right? Elijah Mitchell's been hurt, things of that nature. I think that I'm not willing to give up on the 49ers yet. I just don't think that McCaffrey is the biggest thing for them. I don't think it separates them from everyone. I think obviously it helps, but we need to see this 49ers team at full strength or close to full strength with McCaffrey another week or two into the playbook in order to see kind of what the whole totality of it is. But let's go to another running back here, and that's James Robinson to the Jets. So the Jets lost Breece Hall. And it was really unfortunate because Breece Hall, right before his injury, was coming on very strongly, was playing fantastic football. And then sure enough, tears his ACL. And now the Jets send a conditional 6th round pick, Chase, that could be a 5th if James Robinson plays a certain amount. I mean, that seems like highway robbery to me if I'm the Jets. Do you agree with that?
Listen, Joe Douglas has quietly put together one of the most super elite teams in the NFL. The only problem that we are seeing right now is the quarterback for the Jets, and that's it. Like you are seeing a guy who is a top 10 corner in Sauce Gardner and could be D-Roy. You're seeing a great weapon in Garrett Wilson being utilized. You saw the steal that he got with Breece Hall and how well he was coming on strong. And then Jermaine Johnson was starting to come into his own as well. And he was a late first-round pick. And Joe Douglas, the talent that he has acquired for this team is unreal. And to get James Robinson, a former undrafted running back who had over 1,000 yards in this league, like his rookie year, and then I think 1,100 not last year. Sorry, he tore his ACL last year, but I think 1,100 yards another time. The fact that you got a guy like that for a 6th round pick, that's unreal. That's what I'm saying. Joe Douglas is one of the best GMs in the league and acquiring talent defensively and offensively. And the fact that he did it for a 6th round pick is just unbelievable to me. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because James Robinson was average. I think Robinson was averaging. I got to find his stats real quick. But I mean, Robinson is a fantastic young player. I mean, the guy is only like 26 years old.
Yeah, and in the first 2 weeks of the season,
his third season, man.
He's in the first 2 weeks of the season when he was playing with the Jags.
He's 24,
he was dominating, lighting it up. They were using him in every package. Like
he's in his 3rd season. He's 24. He had that injury last year, but has averaged over 4 yards a carry with the Jacksonville Jaguars and had 3 touchdowns in the limited times that they used him. He's only ran the ball 81 times so far this year through 7 games. I mean, they've been having him on a pitch count with Travis Etienne, and James Robinson at the time was looking like the most efficient running back in the group. And it's just amazing to me that I agree. I don't know if I'd say that Joe Douglas is collecting the greatest roster, but at the moment it is the best young roster in the NFL. And that's what you're wanting to get, is you're wanting these young players who are showing potential to add on. And I mean, do I truly believe that James Robinson is a giant step away from Breece Hall? No, I don't think so. I think Breece Hall is a bigger playmaker. But if you're talking about a guy that you can run the ball 15, 20 times a game with, and a guy that can continuously get you 4 or 5 yards a carry and can bust 1 or 2 big ones per game, James Robinson is that guy. I saw it against the Colts. I mean, I saw it against the Colts both times. He did fantastic in both games. So, I mean, it's incredible that they got him for a 6th. I mean, that's insane. Even if it turns into a 5th, that's insane. That was such a great trade. And especially for, like you said, with Breece Hall being gone, you wanted to have that situation where you can have another running back come in. And James Robinson has been an established guy. So there's no question about it. So a fantastic trade there. Now let's kind of talk about some of the guys who we said might be getting traded soon. There's a couple different players. We talked about Kareem Hunt. There's been reports of it that could potentially happen. You mentioned it before. Bradley Chubb's name was brought up, that if the Denver Broncos lose to the Jaguars this next Sunday, they said they'd be willing to trade him. DJ Moore is a name that we've had on the list. Like, he's been one of the first names of the whole trade deadline issue. Brandon Cooks is another one. Chase Claypool's name has been brought up in there. And then, of course, Elijah Moore, that everybody's talked about, that, we hear that the Jets say they're not going to trade him under any circumstances, but obviously he hates the fact that he's getting 1 target a game at this point. So, I mean, what do you make of these guys getting potentially getting traded? Who amongst this group do you think is most likely?
Oh, well, we got Kareem, Bradley, DJ, Brandon Cooks, Claypool, and Elijah Moore. I think that within the next 2 days, probably within the next 2 to 3 days, we could see Brandon Cooks heading to a different team. We could see Elijah Moore heading to a different team, and we could see DJ Moore heading to a different team. Because out of all the Panthers players, the one that they said that they are not trading is DJ Moore, but they're listening to offers, and they said that if they're going to trade him, they want, a first rounder for him, which he's worth it. And the fact that there's teams out there that have offered the Panthers 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns, and they said no. That's 2 first-rounders. Let that sink in. You could build your roster over the next 2 years with those 2 first-round picks and get great weapons or great defensive players to fill in, and you're denying your team, a complete rebuild and a chance to get these guys, all because you don't want to trade a piece on the defense that you think that may help out, but like it'll give you draft capital, give you assets, give you options to trade back, trade up, do whatever you got to do. Take that bait. And I think DJ Moore to the Chiefs, we're going to probably see that, or DJ Moore to the Packers, one of the two. I know that the Packers have been heavily calling the Steelers about Chase Claypool, and the reason why we haven't seen anything yet is the Steelers want a first or a second for Chase Claypool. That dude's only worth like a 4th or a 5th rounder. He's not worth no first. You got to be, you got to be blind if you think that he's worth that. But I think the ones that we'll see the most with how heavily defense is, I think we'll see Bradley Chubb get traded, and I think that we'll see DJ Moore get traded here in the next couple days.
Yeah, I think DJ definitely is the most likely one. I certainly hope that the Broncos lose on Sunday just to see if Bradley Chubb does end up getting traded somewhere. I know when that news came out, you're like, hell, I'll take him. Like, I'm sure you would. Like, him and Myles Garrett on the opposite sides would be the most absolute funniest thing in the world to see.
Dude, not to mention his cousin already plays for us, so why not?
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be pretty funny to see. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some quarterback news, because there have been a bunch of teams this week, Chase, that have made decisions in their quarterback room or have yet to make decisions in their quarterback room on things going down. But we got to talk about the most glaring one of all, and that is Sam Ehlinger as the new starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. So Colts lose to the Titans again. Lose to the Titans again. They were 1-3-1 in their division. Clearly things with Matt Ryan are not going very well at this moment in time. Anyone can see that. But now the Colts said, despite Matt Ryan being injured, they're still wanting to see Sam Ehlinger play for the rest of the year. And they said this decision comes regardless of Matt Ryan's status. Yay, what's up, video boss? What is your response to this, Chase, of Frank Reich going away from Matt Ryan and going to Sam Ehlinger now?
Once you told me this, I kind of saw it coming, because with how bad the Colts QB situation has been over the past, 3 years now, it's just been, you had Phillip Rivers, who was pretty good for you guys, but retired. And then you had Carson Wentz, and that experiment didn't pan out very well. And then you have now Matt Ryan, and you're seeing that it's not working. They've had 6 starting quarterbacks, including the GOAT, Scott Tolzien, for you guys, ever since Andrew Luck retired. And, we have yet to see a guy be an established starter for more than 2 seasons, or more than even 1 season with the Colts. We have not seen an established starter for more than 1 season with the Colts, except maybe Jacoby Brissett. And that's it. Like, ever since Luck has retired, we have not seen a quarterback start more than 1 season with the Indianapolis Colts. And the reason why they are forcing Sam Ehlinger in there, and I think it's a Jim Irsay thing and it's a Chris Ballard thing, because these two want to see if Sam Ehlinger can lead this Colts team from the brink of, falling behind even more in the AFC to the top of the division and then maybe even into the playoffs. Or if they're going to go with this offseason and go for broke, and it's just like, okay, we missed the playoffs. Sam Ehlinger is not our guy. Let's go all in and try to, trade a bunch of assets to get within the top 3 picks to get a quarterback. Because you and I both know damn well that if Sam Ehlinger starts off 0-3, it's a wrap for the Colts, and they better just draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't see how this leads to anything. I mean, at the end of the day, this decision will be either Ehlinger is going to be the future of this team, or we have to go find the one that is, right? And I just saw a tweet that just mentioned it, like, ever since Manning has been was the last time he was in a Colt uniform, which was 11 years ago, the Colts have gone through 15 quarterbacks in 11 years. 15. I mean, and that's incredible to say, given the fact that Andrew Luck was there for 6 of those years. So very amazing to think about that. Because like you said, ever since Andrew Luck has been gone, we've never had a quarterback for more than a season. And we thought Matt Ryan could be that guy for 2 years to help monitor the next quarterback that we bring in. Well, now that's not even going to be a thing anymore.
You want to know what's crazy, Derek? When you and I were talking the other day, you're like, would it be too crazy for the Colts to trade Jonathan Taylor for draft capital? And I thought you were absolutely freaking stupid for suggesting that. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Because with how young Jonathan Taylor is and how much you guys could easily get a first-round pick for a running back like that. Easily. And with the teams that are in desperate need of them, it would suck to see him go. But if you could get another first-round pick and use those 2 picks to trade up in the draft to get your guy, then I think it's worth it. Because to see a guy like Jonathan Taylor go would be heartbreaking and it would suck. But if it means to get your franchise guy for the next 10 to 15 years, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I've had this topic come up a few times with what this has been going on, Chase. Believe me, as someone who has a Colts podcast that has had to deal with this over the last 48 hours, the amount of people that have been saying fire sale, sell everything, like get rid of it, like just shut everything down. It's like, dude, okay, we don't need to go that far. That is not something that the Colts need to do, is fire sale everyone and get rid of anyone that's good. You don't need to do that. But you and I have had this discussion, and, you and I have said, like, that as unfortunate as that news is that, running backs don't lead teams to championships anymore. They just don't. I mean, it's the unfortunate truth of the NFL that over the last 10 years, there has not been a running back in the league that has put the team on their shoulders and has brought them to the promised land. It's just not how it goes. And, I would not want to get rid of Jonathan Taylor unless the deal was, something spectacular, because I truly believe that Jonathan Taylor is a generational running back, and that, he's one of the best in the NFL, and that he, makes everyone better around him when you get a chance. But, it is what it is. Fire Frank, then we Gucci and the Louis.
I like that.
But I don't know. And believe me, I've tried to not have this conversation because Colts fans like lose their freaking minds if I ever mention that idea.
Well, the thing is, like, they don't realize that, like you said, there has been no running back in the history of the NFL over the past 15 years that has carried their team to the promised land. None of them.
Right. Like the closest thing that we've seen
It's Todd Gurley.
is Todd Gurley from that one time, right? And then that didn't work. I could say I can't even say Marshawn Lynch because like that team had the best defense in the NFL. It had one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. It had everything going for it. I'd say the best case that you can make for that was when Adrian Peterson was in his prime, when he went for that 2,000-yard season and took his team to the playoffs and they ended up losing just by a fraction. That was the closest thing you had to a running back taking a team to the promised land in the last 10 years. And that's just not something you can do in today's NFL. It's just not, it can't be designed that way. It's just not how it works anymore. So, I mean,
Yeah,
and of course, you know, Colts fans too, they have an emotional aspect to this, right? Because it's their player, it's their generational player. It reminds them of Edgerrin James, and it's like, guys, like I love Edgerrin James too. He's a Hall of Famer. He's an amazing running back. But the Colts didn't make it to the Super Bowl with Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was not the reason they went to Super Bowls. They didn't win a Super Bowl with Edgerrin James. They won a Super Bowl with Joseph Adai. They never went to a Super Bowl with Edgerrin James in the backfield. And look, I love this guy. I have a freaking shirt with him on it, okay? I have shirts with Jonathan Taylor on them. I got a freaking phone case that's Jonathan Taylor. Like, there's not a lot of people that love Jonathan Taylor more than myself. I just have to also be a realist when it comes to your situation of your franchise. You need to start looking beyond what you have in front of you, and you need to start thinking about getting a better team around you. And I think that it comes down to fixing the O-line. You got to get a better quarterback, and you got to get better coaching in there. I don't see any problem with keeping Jonathan Taylor if they want to franchise tag him. I think that's what they'll probably end up doing for the next couple years, Chase, is franchise tagging Jonathan Taylor, because you don't want to get rid of him, but you also don't want to pay him. So I think they probably franchise tag him, to be honest. Try to run a Super Bowl with him on the roster under, you know, the kind of pay that he's getting. We'll see how that goes. But it is a very interesting topic, though, to say the least. Sam Ehlinger, though, I'm rooting for the kid. I certainly hope. I talked with you about this the other day, and I said, I hope he either falls flat and it shows everyone that we're just not there. We need to get the quarterback of the future. Or Sam Ehlinger, which I'm really hoping for, is he just balls out. Like he balls out, he shows some greatness, and that, you know, maybe there is something to Sam Ehlinger that, you know, we can move forward with. But I have my doubts.
You're right, Video Boss. They have been winning with good run games, but they've also got a quarterback in the backfield that can make a difference as well. I mean, you talk about the teams with good run games. I mean, you know, Josh Jacobs has been doing pretty good. Kenneth Walker's been doing pretty good, and Gino's been balling out. You know, the only two that are exceptions to not having a good quarterback in the backfield right now is Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb. Those are the only two that you can look at that have.
And then, of course, like Tennessee has devised their whole game plan by running with Derrick Henry. How's that worked out for them? They made it to the Super Bowl yet? They made it to the AFC Championship game one time and then got blown out by the Chiefs, who don't have an efficient running game. But guess what they do have? A generational quarterback.
Yeah, and then look at the running back that they got in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, that didn't pan out very well with his running style and stuff in the playoffs. I mean, he's been bounced in the first round every year except for last year. So obviously, running the football doesn't do very well. You got to, you know, mix the run and the pass in there as well. I mean, you know, finding your generational quarterback is the main concern for any team out there, you know, regardless of whether or not you got a good running back. You could have good run games in the beginning and middle of the season or even at the end, but it all matters when it comes time for playoff if you got your quarterback or not, because that's the sole purpose on why the Titans lost to the Bills or to the Bengals last year. It's because Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions. They had 9 sacks on Joe Burrow and couldn't win that game because Derrick Henry didn't show up. He only had 60 yards. And then Ryan Tannehill just sucked and threw 3 interceptions. And, you know, if they had a better quarterback, the Titans win that game, and they were the number 1 seed last year. So,
yep, absolutely. Let's go to another quarterback controversy, and that is between the Patriots right now with Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. Bill Belichick, obviously last week, Mac Jones got benched midway through the game. And, after the Bears took a 10-0 lead, Bailey Zappi then came out and threw 2 touchdowns right off the bat. And then Chase, you and I were sitting there and we're like, yeah, this debate's over. Bailey Zappi is going to be the quarterback the rest of the way. And then the second half, Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi both played. In the second half, neither quarterback could get anything going offensively. I mean, credit the Bears defense for what they were able to do. I mean, do you know, Chase, that in the second half this year, in 7 games, they have never once given up double-digit points in the second half of any game this year?
Who, the Patriots?
The Bears. Their defense has yet to give up double-digit points in any game. Actually, no, that's not true. They gave up 11 points one time. It's the only time that they gave up double-digit points in the second half of any games. There's been 2 games where they gave up none in the second half. So, I mean, they've been playing really well from the defensive side of things. And, we saw what happened with Justin Fields and them this week. They actually got it going for the first time all season. But, and Bill Belichick says he still isn't 100% sure who he wants to have going forward leading this team. I mean, who do you think it should be?
Video Boss, why do you think it's one of the dumbest decisions you've seen by Bill? Because here's the reason why I don't think it was. Because I think it should be Bailey Zappi. Because when you look at what he's done, like going back to his college days, he played at Western Kentucky, a team that is not, a big name school like LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, anything like that. And he threw for 62 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards. He broke Joe Burrow's touchdown record. You saw what happened when he came in versus the Packers or the game before that. They barely lost to the Packers. Then they ended up they barely lost to the Ravens. And, he had to come in on a whim because of that happening. Then he comes back and they lose by a field goal to the Packers on a last-second drive by Aaron Rodgers. And then he comes back, annihilates the Browns because they shot themselves in the foot and were making so many mistakes. And then Mac Jones comes back, starts against the Bears. And what does he do? They get down 10-0. This man throws an interception, 0 touchdowns, 0. Bailey Zappi comes in. The first thing he does is throw a touchdown pass. And then what does he do? The next play, drives down the field, scores another touchdown. I think the reason why the Patriots didn't do well the rest of the night is because they were swapping them in and out, and they were going between different play styles and different calls and different, play callers. I think that Bailey Zappi has a better arm and a better understanding of everything than Mac Jones does. And here's the other thing I've been hearing around the league. I've been hearing that Mac Jones doesn't want to listen when he has stuff, called to him. Like when he's got a play called, he wants to audible out of it immediately and doesn't want to trust his play caller and everything like that. And Bailey Zappi doesn't do that. Like he's like, or like he looks at it and he's just like, all right, we can run this. But then if he absolutely doesn't think that it's going to work, then he'll audible out of it.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's no question that Mac Jones has just not been a great quarterback this year. Not even great. I mean, he's not even been average. And, obviously injuries have had a lot to do with that, but his play has just it's diminished a lot. And Bailey Zappi has come in and actually given this team a lift. And I think that makes a ton of sense right now. If you want to see who's the best quarterback right now, it's clear who the best one is, and that's Zappi. So we'll see how that goes throughout the season. But one other quarterback thing we can talk about before we end this, and like you brought up to me before, Panthers starting PJ Walker. PJ Walker, who was a XFL quarterback a year ago, is now going to be the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers again. I think he's actually was with the Carolina Panthers at one point before he left. and he was with the Colts for a while. But PJ Walker now over Sam Darnold and over Baker Mayfield at this point. The Panthers going with a whole new direction. And I mean, he played last week, didn't he?
Yeah, he's the one that beat Tom Brady and the Bucs.
And sure enough, like, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's weird, Chase, how that works. Cause like, even if a quarterback's not as good as the other ones, like, it's just something about a different quarterback coming in every week. And teams just sometimes have a hard time accounting for it because you don't understand his tendencies a lot. Like, you can dial in sometimes on a quarterback that has played a year or two in the NFL and dial in on what they prefer to do, especially when they're young. But PJ Walker, who's not been in the NFL throwing a lot of passes over the last few years, you know, you don't know his tendencies. You can understand the offense as much as you want, but if PJ's throwing something different that you don't see, you got to rely on your players to make plays. And right now, PJ Walker's just making those plays. I mean, do you think PJ Walker keeps that position with the Panthers going forward?
Now, I don't know if Baker is fully healthy from his high ankle sprain, because they said it was going to be 2 to 6 weeks. So I really don't know if that's the reason why PJ Walker is starting, or if it's because, you know, they just beat the Bucs 21-3 this past week, and he's playing really well. I don't know. You know, from what I've been told, and what I've been hearing is that Baker's not ready yet, and that's why. Or maybe it's just because they giving him a spark. But either way, if they can win like they are now with PJ Walker, start the man. Start him. Because we've seen guys, you know, backups come in that we did not expect to do good, aka Geno, and are tearing it up right now. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with PJ for the rest of the season. But I'm saying if he's going to be playing like this, start the man.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. All right, well, that's going to do
more
it for
thing.
this one, unless you have something else.
One more thing, because the one thing I did want to talk about is what is happening to the Packers and the Buccaneers. Because, you know, somebody made a valid point to me, Derek, the other day, and I didn't think about this until they said something. So Aaron Rodgers has won back-to-back MVPs, correct?
Yes, Aaron Rodgers won back-to-back.
Okay. And
oh yeah,
Aaron Rodgers has made it.
I forgot this is a topic. Yeah, we were wanting to talk about the Pack and the Bucs.
Right.
Yeah,
no. So Aaron Rodgers has won back-to-back MVPs. He has also had the best receiver in the league for the past couple of years in Davante Adams. Well, probably not anymore, but he was. And then he's also made it to the NFC Championship. Am I wrong?
Wait, what's up?
Aaron Rodgers has made it to the NFC Championship had the best receiver in the league last year. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Now, tell me
they didn't make it to the NFC Championship last year. They got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, but you're right. The 2 years prior, they did do that.
Right. Then tell me why Aaron Rodgers is crying and complaining that he has no weapons on his team to throw to or no good wide receivers when Daniel Jones is over here throwing to practice squad players, and they are 6-1 compared to the Green Bay Packers, who are 3-4 at the moment. Now, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Randall Cobb are all massive upgrades than what Daniel Jones has over in New York. Tell me why New York is playing better with less than what Aaron Rodgers is. That is insane.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So this kind of goes into our argument of talking about Tom Brady and about Aaron Rodgers right now, how like two of the last old heads of the league their teams are both struggling. Listen, Aaron Rodgers does not have any help with the receiving options. He doesn't. I don't care what anybody. I don't care. I don't care if we're talking about the fact that the Giants have nothing either. I get it, and I'm not excusing it. I'm saying that both things can be true, and the fact that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any help. He doesn't have good wide receivers right now. They're not playing. Their receivers are not playing well right now. And it also comes down to the coaching. You mentioned it. Daboll is the biggest reason why the Giants are where they're at right now, because they're a well-coached team. They play good defense. They run the ball efficiently with Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones doesn't make a lot of mistakes that kicks them out of games. Right now, Aaron Rodgers is kind of in the same situation. This team can run the ball the way that they normally like to. They don't have a running back as talented as Saquon, but they have some running backs that can run. The Packers defense is nowhere near as good as the Giants right now. And obviously, you know, you look at it and say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers should be contributing a lot more to this group, right? And it's funny too, because we always make that argument, right? That when it comes to the great quarterbacks make bad weapons look pretty good. Like, and it's just weird because that's not happening right now. So it's either the receivers are truly that bad to the point where they're laughing stocks, or it's the fact that Aaron Rodgers just has lost a step. And it also could mean that that the coaching has just not been the same. And that's also true. I've seen Tom Grossi, who I've had him on my show before. He's one of the biggest Packers podcasters and content creators that I know. And he definitely will tell you that the way this team is coached and the way that they're scheming things, especially offensively, is like one of the worst things the Packers have ever seen. I mean, it's truly insane how disconnected everything looks offensively, like with the whole team in general. I mean, there's times where they play in halves where they just look like they forget how to play football. I mean, it's crazy because I look at it from this point that the Giants are insanely better coached at the moment than the Packers are. And I could also say that's another reason why the Buccaneers are losing to teams that they should be beating, right? They're 3-4. I mean, and they're a laughing stock right now too. Both the Aaron Rodgers led Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneer led Tom Brady team, they're both struggling. I mean, the fact that the Buccaneers only scored 3 points on the Panthers is just absolutely insane. I mean, you saw Mike Evans drop that clear touchdown in that first half of the game. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I think that it was funny because we asked that same question right about the Packers and the Buccaneers a few weeks ago about if they jump off the edge, right? Well, I think they have. I think both of these teams, I don't think there's anything going for them at this point. I think both teams are derailing quickly.
There really isn't. And, you know, is it too far of a stretch to say that Tom Brady's washed at this point, Derek? Or is it just more or less like, you know, the team around him isn't doing well? Because even before the team around Brady was falling apart, like, you know, we saw that he was still winning games, but barely. Like he beat the Cowboys at the start of the season by, you know, 18 point. It was like 18 to whatever. And then like he won another game earlier in the season. It was like 23-17. You know, he wasn't outscoring everybody, you know, by a wide margin. It was very close, a lot of their wins that they had. And like then they just started, like then the Tom Brady news came out about Giselle, and then it's just been downhill ever since. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane to think about. But yeah, that'll be definitely something we'll keep an eye out for. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. It was a fun show to say the least. But we'll have another one tomorrow where we're going to talk about all things injury wise, because there's so many injuries that have happened over the last few days. But we'll make sure to have all of it coming. But this is the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evenings.